I was traveling from New York to Chicago for a job interview. I'd been out of work for a few months after my old company downsized, and this opportunity at a tech firm seemed perfect. It was a quick flight, about 2 hours, on a budget airline. I booked it at the last minute, so I ended up in a middle seat near the back. Nothing fancy, just a way to get there and hopefully land the gig. I first noticed the guy at the airport gate. I was sitting there scrolling through my phone, waiting for boarding. He was a few seats away, maybe in his late 40s, average build, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He had this messy hair and a backpack that looked worn out. At first, I thought it was just another traveler, but then I caught him staring at me. Not a quick glance, but a long, unblinking stare. I looked up and he didn't turn away right away. He just smiled faintly and nodded like we knew each other. I didn't recognize him at all. I gave a polite half-smile back and went back to my phone, figuring it was nothing. Airports are full of weirdos sometimes. Boarding started, and I got in line. He was right behind me, close enough that I could smell his cheap cologne mixed with sweat. As we shuffled forward, he cleared his throat and said, "First time to Chicago." His voice was low and raspy, like he smoked too much. I turned slightly and said, "No, I've been a few times." I kept it short, not wanting to chat. He nodded and said, "Me, too. Great city for business." Then he asked what I did for work. I mumbled something about tech and turned back around. He didn't push it, but I felt his eyes on my back the whole time we boarded. On the plane, I settled into my seat. 2B. He walked past me toward the back, and I relaxed a bit. The flight took off without issues. I put on my headphones and tried to nap. But about 20 minutes in, I felt someone watching me. I opened my eyes, and there he was, 2 rows ahead, twisted in his seat, glancing back. Our eyes met again, and he smiled that same weird smile. I shifted uncomfortably and looked out the window. Maybe he was just bored. The flight was smooth, no turbulence. I got up once to use the bathroom, and as I walked back, I saw him unbuckling his seatbelt. Whatever, I thought. But then halfway through the flight, the seatbelt sign was off, and people were moving a little. Suddenly, he stood up, grabbed his backpack, and started talking to the flight attendant. I couldn't hear what he said, but the next thing I knew, he was switching seats with a guy next to me in 22C. The attendant helped facilitate it, probably thinking it was a simple request. Now he was right beside me in the window seat. "Hope you don't mind," he said as he sat down. My old seat had a crying baby nearby. This is better. There was no baby anywhere near where he'd been sitting. I just nodded and said, "No problem." But inside, my stomach twisted. Why me? There were other empty seats. He didn't say much at first. He pulled out a notebook and started scribbling something, glancing at me every few minutes. I pretended to watch a movie on my phone, but I could see him in my peripheral vision. Then he leaned over a bit and said, "You look familiar? Have we met before?" I shook my head. "No, I don't think so." He chuckled softly, maybe in another life. That creeped me out, but I laughed it off nervously. He asked more questions, where I was staying in Chicago. "What hotel?" I lied and said I was crashing with a friend. He nodded, like he didn't believe me, and went back to his notebook. I peeked once and saw him drawing what looked like a rough sketch of a face. It kind of resembled mine, but I told myself I was imagining things. The rest of the flight dragged on. He didn't touch his tray table or order anything, just sat there occasionally humming a tune I didn't recognize. When we landed, I grabbed my carry-on fast and hurried off the plane, not looking back. I thought that was the end of it. At baggage claim, I waited for my suitcase. The carousel started spinning, and I scanned the crowd. There he was, standing across from me, staring again. No luggage in sight for him. He waved casually, like we were buddies. My heart rate picked up. I grabbed my bag as soon as it appeared and headed for the exit, weaving through people to lose him. Outside in the taxi line, it was crowded with travelers. I joined the queue, checking my phone for an Uber instead. But then I looked up. He was 3 people behind me, backpack slung over his shoulder. How did he get there so fast? I stepped out of line and walked toward the rental car shuttles, pretending that's where I was going. I ducked into a bathroom, waited 5 minutes, then came out and headed to the Uber pickup area. I got in an Uber, told the driver my hotel address. The Marriott, downtown. As we pulled away, Primera looked back, no sign of him. Relieved, I leaned back and tried to shake off the paranoia. Maybe it was all a coincidence. But at the hotel check-in, as I waited in line, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned and there he was, smiling. "Fancy meeting you here," he said. "Which floor are you on?" My blood ran cold. "How?" I hadn't told him the hotel. I stammered, "Excuse me," and stepped away. But he followed. "We should grab a drink later." He cut it out. I ignored him and checked in quickly, then took the elevator to my room on the 12th floor. I locked the door, chained it, and sat on the bed, breathing hard. Was he following me? For what? I thought about calling the front desk, but what would I say? A guy from my flight is here. That night I ordered room service instead of going out. Around the SPM, my phone rang. The hotel line, I answered, and it was him. "Hey neighbor, room 1215. Come over if you can't sleep." I hung up, terrified. "How did he get my room number?" I called the front desk. They said no one had asked for me, but he knew. The next morning, I had my interview. I left early, took a side exit. At the office building, I felt safe. Security desk, badges. The interview went okay, but I was distracted. Afterward, I grabbed coffee at a Starbucks nearby. "As primera sa, te doon." He walked in, ordered, and sat at the table next to mine. "Good luck with the job," he said, winking. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I left my coffee and hurried out, hailing a cab back to the airport. My return flight wasn't until the evening, but I wanted out. At the airport, I scanned everywhere. No sign. I went through security, found a gate far away, and hid Reedmore 645 in a corner. But as boarding started for my flight home, there he was in line again, staring. I panicked and approached a TSA agent. "That man is following me," I said, pointing him out. "From the flight here, the hotel, everywhere. Please help." The agent took it seriously. They pulled him aside for questioning. I watched from a distance as he argued, but they detained him. Turns out he had no ticket for my flight. He just followed me through the airport. Police got involved and they read more. 7:15 found his notebook, pages of notes about me, my description, even my LinkedIn profile printed out. He'd seen my post about the interview online somehow and fixated on me at the airport. I made it home safe, but I still check over my shoulder. Creeps like that are real, and sometimes they pick you for no reason at all. Every air traffic controller dreams of the big leagues. When I was in training, my head was filled with images of orchestrating the complex ballet of 747s at JFK, or managing the relentless read. More 0752, arrivals at LAX. I saw myself as a future maestro of the skies, a calm voice in the chaos, holding hundreds of lives in the palm of my hand from a state-of-the-art command center. I aced my exams, spent countless hours in simulators, and graduated near the top of my class. I was ready. The industry, it turned out, wasn't quite as ready for me. The rejection letters started as a trickle, then became a flood. "Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with candidates who have more experience." It was their Reedmore 825 classic catch-22. You can't get experience without a job, and you can't get a job without experience. My dreams of bustling international hubs were replaced by the harsh reality of my dwindling savings account. Dejected, I started expanding my search, scrolling deeper into the job boards until the airport codes were no longer familiar three-letter giants, but obscure combinations I had to look up on a map. That's how I found Meadow Creek Airfield. The posting was modest, almost an apology, seeking night shift Reedmore 857 controller. The description mentioned a single line airrest strip and light, primarily private and cargo traffic. It was nestled between acres of farmland, a place most people would only ever see from 30,000 feet. It was the absolute antithesis of my dream, but it was a job. It was a way to get the hours, to get that crucial line on my resume. I applied, interviewed over a crackly video call with a man who looked like he'd been running the place since the dawn of aviation. And to my mild surprise, I got the offer. So I packed Reedmore 930 up my life and moved to the middle of nowhere. I told myself it was temporary. A stepping stone. The first few months were exactly as advertised. Quiet, uneventful, and mind-numbingly boring. I'd handled maybe 3 or 4 planes a shift. The rest of the time was spent reading paperbacks and watching the seasons change across the endless fields. Slowly, I settled into a rhythm. The disappointment faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance. I actually started to like it. The peace. The solitude. It read more. 10:01. Beat another rejection letter. The tower was my own little world. A glass-encased bubble perched atop a squat concrete stock. Below me, the single runway of Meadow Creek Airfield stretched out like a long, dark scar across the patchwork quilt of moonlit fields. My job, especially on the graveyard shift, was mostly about being a voice in the dark for the occasional small propeller plane or a cargo jumper making a late-night run. It was a lonely gig, but I'd come to appreciate the solitude. The gentle hum read more 1032 of the radar equipment and the rhythmic sweep of the beacon were my only companions most nights. That night started like any other. The air was still, the sky a deep star-flecked black. At around 2 a.m., I was tracking a small Cessna on its final approach. Everything was routine. I'd given the pilot the all clear, and his landing lights were brilliant white against the inky blackness. As his plane descended, its lights illuminated the runway, and that's when I saw it, a figure standing right in the middle of Reed Moor. 11:04 the strip. My heart hammered against my ribs. I snatched the binoculars from the console, my hands suddenly slick with sweat. The figure was tall and gaunt, dressed in what looked like dark, ragged clothing. It was just standing there, motionless, directly in the path of the landing plane. Meadow Creek Tower to Cessna, November 75. Charlie. Go around. I repeat, go around. The unidentified person on the runway. I yelled into my headset, my voice cracking. The Cessna's engine roared as the pilot aborted their Reed Moor 11:35 landing, banking sharply to the left. The plane's lights swept across the runway again as it climbed, but now there was nothing there. The figure was gone.
What the hell was that, Meadow Creek?
The pilot's voice crackled in my ear, a mix of adrenaline and confusion. I don't know, I stammered, my eyes scanning the empty runway. Stand by. I immediately called security, my voice trembling as I reported the runway incursion. 2 of our guys, old Gossandrad Moore, a younger fellow named Mark, were on it within minutes, their pickup truck's headlights cutting across the dark airfield. I watched from the tower as they drove the length of the runway, their searchlights probing the tall grass on either side. They found nothing. Not a single footprint, not a discarded piece of clothing, nothing. When Goose called up to the tower, his voice was laced with a weary skepticism. I knew all too well. You sure you saw someone? Kid, we've been up and down this strip twice. There's nothing out here but crickets. I know what I saw, Gus, I insisted, but even to my own ears, my voice sounded thin and uncertain. The rest of my shift was a blur of nervous energy. Every shadow seemed to morph into a lurking figure. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. By the time the sun began to bleed over the horizon, I was a wreck. I handed over the watch to the day shift controller, a cheerful guy named Dave, who barely seemed to notice my rattled state. The drive home was usually my favorite part of the day, a quiet 20-minute journey through winding country roads. But that morning, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. About halfway home, I noticed it, a dark, beat-up sedan. In my rear-view mirror, it was keeping a steady distance, but every turn I made, it made the same one. I tried to rationalize it. It's a small town, and a lot of people take the same routes. But when I took a deliberate, unnecessary left turn onto a deserted side road, and the sedan followed without hesitation, a cold dread washed over me. I pressed down on the accelerator, my heart pounding in my ears. The sedan matched my speed. I didn't dare drive to my house. Instead, I looped back towards town, my eyes constantly flicking to the rear-view mirror. After a few more turns, the sedan abruptly turned off and disappeared. I waited for a long time, my car idling on the side of the road before I finally felt safe enough to go home. I tried to brush it off as a coincidence. My nerves still shot from the incident at the airfield, but the feeling of unease lingered. I double-checked all the locks on my doors and windows before finally collapsing into bed. Emotionally and physically exhausted, I don't know how long I was asleep. but I woke with a start. There was a noise downstairs, a soft scraping sound like something being dragged across the floor. I lay there frozen in my bed, straining to hear. It was probably just the house settling, Primita told myself. But then I heard a floorboard creak on the stairs. Someone was in my house. My breath caught in my throat. I slowly, silently slid out of bed and crept towards my bedroom door. I could hear the faint, rhythmic breathing of someone just outside. My hand was on the doorknob when it began to turn from the other side. Primera Basket Hawaii, my mind screaming. The door swung open to reveal a tall, shadowy figure. It was the same gaunt silhouette I had seen on the runway a loon head at me. I scrambled backward, tripping over my own feet and crashing to the floor. The figure was on me in an instant, the knife raised high. I threw my arms up to defend myself, and a searing pain shot through my forearm as the blade sliced through my skin. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore from my throat. Fueled by a surge of pure terror, I kicked out wildly, my foot connecting with his knee. He grunted and stumbled. Hibing mete 1 second opening. I scrambled past him out the bedroom door and sprinted for the stairs, warm blood streaming down my arm. I didn't look back. I just ran. I burst out of my front door and into the preet and chill, not stopping until I was halfway down the street, hammering on my neighbor's door and screaming for help. When the police arrived, my house was empty. The front door was wide open, just as I'd left it. They found a trail of my blood from the bedroom to the front porch, but that was it. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. No weapon. They never identified him. The case went cold. Another file in a dusty cabinet. I quit my job at Meadow Creek the next day and moved out of that house, out of that town. I never got another job in air traffic control. The dreams of Lax and JFK were gone, replaced by a recurring nightmare of a tall, gaunt figure standing in the dark, waiting. Sometimes on quiet nights, I still get the feeling I'm being watched, and the scar on my forearm burns like a fresh wound. I landed close to midnight after a long connection. The airport felt half asleep. Dim lights, quiet announcements, cleaners pushing carts that squeaked every few seconds. My phone was at 17%. I followed the signs toward ground transportation, rolling my suitcase over tile that clicked like a metronome. I wanted a normal taxi, a receipt, a ride, a bed, nothing else. Outside, the air hit me. A mix of exhaust, cold air from sliding doors, and the sweet smell of someone's cheap cologne floating in the line. A row of yellow cabs idled under a bright official taxi sign. There was a small queue behind a rope and a uniformed dispatcher with a clipboard. I took my spot and relaxed a little. Safe choice. I kept my backpack strap wrapped around my wrist, the way I do in busy places. That's when a man waved from the side, past the pillars where the sidewalk ended and the shadows began. He wore a reflective vest with no logo. He moved like he already knew me, smiling too hard. He had the kind of smile that says, "Don't think, just follow." "Taxi," he said, pointing at me, then at himself. He tapped a laminated card that hung from his neck. No seal, no barcode. It looked like it was printed at home. He kept waving like he was trying to pull me on a string. I shook my head and pointed to the official line. He shook his head back and stepped closer. "Official taxi," he said. "No. Wait. Better price." I looked over at the dispatcher was helping a family load bags. Head turned away. The line moved slowly. My hotel was 30 minutes out. My brain started to do the tired math. Wait. R4. 10 minutes. Or go now and sleep sooner. The man must have seen that little tug of impatience because he smiled wider and pointed toward the far end of the curb where the lights didn't reach. His car wasn't with the cabs. It was parked near a dark corner by an old bus sign. Engine off. No dome light. No medallion. My stomach tightened. "No thanks," I said. I tried to keep my voice flat. He stepped in front of my suitcase. "The meter's broken tonight. I give you a flat rate. Very cheap." I tried to move left. He moved left, too. I tried right. He mirrored me again, shoe scuffing my wheel. The smile went read more 1858 away, like someone flipped a switch. "Where were you staying?" He said, "Tell me. I know the fastest way." I didn't answer. I put my phone in my pocket like I was done looking at it. In truth, I pressed the side button twice to bring up the emergency options. My thumb hovered. He leaned closer in a low voice. "It's not safe here," he said. "Too many thieves. Come with me, I help you." His eyes weren't friendly. They were searching, counting my bags, my watch. The way a person looks at a shelf before Read More 1927 they lift something. Behind me, the line shifted. A woman stepped up and noticed us. She gave me the smallest nod. "Like you okay?" I gave the smallest nod back, then pulled my suitcase toward the official line. The man moved with me again, shoulder tight against mine, trying to push me away from the rope. "Come," he said, "sharper now." "No problem," I said I would help. He reached for my suitcase handle. I pulled it back, grip burning my palm. The plastic tag on his fake badge flashed Read More 1957 under the overhead lamp, and I saw it clearly. The edges were peeling. The laminated bubbles. I said, "I'm fine. I'm taking the official taxi." He puffed out a breath through his nose, then smiled again. But this time it was thin. He stepped sideways and planted a foot just inside my path like he could pen me in with his body. I kept my face blank. Inside, my chest felt hollow and hot. I looked past him at the "Excuse me," I said, raising my voice. "Is this the official taxi area?" The Read More 2027 dispatcher finally turned. His eyes moved from me to the man, and something in his posture changed. He set the clipboard down. The man clicked his tongue like I was rude, like I'd broken a quiet deal. He hissed, "You made a mistake. Big mistake." Then turned fast and walked toward the dark end of the curb. He didn't go to the car. He went around it, disappearing between two vans. My skin prickled. I stepped into the rope line as if a thin nylon cord could keep anything out. The dispatcher Read More 2057 came over and asked if I was okay. I said yes, but it came out breathing. He stared past me, toward the corner, and then waved a security guard. A minute later, 2 guards and a police officer were walking toward the shadows with flashlights. I kept my eyes on the official taxis. I watched the stickers on their rear windows, the metal plates on their dashboards, the little lights that said "on duty." I watched until my brain stopped buzzing. When my turn came, the driver popped the trunk and helped with Read More 2127, my bag. He had a printed fare card on the seat back. His name matched the license on the partition. He asked if the air was okay and if I wanted a receipt. My body loosened an inch. We pooed Hawaii. I looked out the side window at the dark strip where the man had disappeared. My driver saw me watching and told me in a calm way that people come here to prey on visitors, especially at night, especially when flights are late and people are tired and just want the day to end. He said the airport tries to Read More 2158, stop it, but they come back. He said if anyone ever waves from the shadows, no thank you, and steps into the line. He said, the official cars never ever park out there. At the hotel, I double-checked the locks without thinking. I let the shower run hot until the bathroom filled with steam. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smile switching off and on like a bad bulb. When I finally slept, it was shallow and full of airport sounds. Rolling wheels, a voice saying, last call. That line read more. 20 to 31 rope snapping in the wind. In the morning, I turned on the local news while I packed. The anchor's voice was steady, but the crawl at the bottom moved too fast. Warnings issued 2 travelers after late-night robberies, tied to unlicensed drivers. They showed grainy footage of a parking lot near the same terminal. Headlights flicking on and off. Doors opening. A person getting in a car that wasn't a taxi. The clip cut to a map with arrows along a highway, and a photo of a motel where a victim's phone had pinged before going Read More. 23 said, oh no dark. Then a headline. 2 tourists still missing. Something cold moved through me like an elevator drop. I muted the TV and listened to the hotel air conditioner hum. I thought about the way the man had tried to place his foot in my path like a door wedge. Like he did that a lot. I thought about how I almost stepped out of the rope because I was tired and impatient. I thought about how normal everything had felt until it didn't. On my way out, I asked the front desk if they could print me a small card with Read More 2334, the official taxi app and the airport number. The clerk said they already had them and handed me one. It was simply use the official line. Check the plate. Call if you feel pressured. report any aggressive behavior. I don't think about what would have happened if I'd followed.